Great. Let's continue.
Sorry,
break time's over, Kanye.
You ready? Break time's over.
well,
It's my time to snack.
Oh, okay, whatever, man. Break time was over. There stood Alka Aozaki and Sojiro Shizuki. Their first ever idle conversation had come to an end, not that they had a choice in the matter. It was a jarring murmuring from around the corner that cut it short.
Oh, I got this. Hold on.
Yeah, your break is over.
Man, I didn't think it would happen so soon. Okay, hold on.
It's the AirPod hips.
Oh god. Okay.
She is so bad. Sorry.
Oh god, I see it now too, yeah.
I don't regret it.
The enemy was just around the corner.
I muted the wrong thing by accident.
Oh no.
Could you start from the top again?
If it's not one thing, it's another. Oh no.
The enemy was just around the corner, visible in the mirrors parallel to it.
We don't have time for this. We need to keep our huh?
In contrast to Alco's elegant blues, its lights were a malicious red. Dude, orchard kill.
Gander shots!
There was a momentary flash of light before she even extended her arm. But the instant she saw the enemy, her dormant feelings erupted once more.
You're a real pain in the ass!
She channeled all of her pent-up anger and shunted it into her right arm. The fog that filled the corridor was no magical weaving, but rather a barrier of raw energy. It was equivalent to setting ablaze 3 buckets of gasoline to create a wall of fire, in the hope it would stop an arrow in flight. If the puppet had attacked with its arm, it could have pierced such a wall easily, but because it had lucid curves with indefinite form, the wall of energy repelled the attack. While it was a huge waste of magical energy, it was the only means Alka had to protect herself at the very moment. Fortunately, its protection was reserved for Alka alone. Sojiro held his hand to his mouth. While the curse had been weakened to the point where Alka could no longer feel it, it had plenty of effect on Sojiro, who was not a mage. As if it understood this fact, the puppet turned its gaze from Alka to the unanticipated human behind her.
This has nothing to do with him!
Enraged, she swung her arm forward once again. The blue light formed a wall to block the gander for a scant few seconds. It was enough for an opening to exploit. Just as Alka was forming the wall, the puppet had pointed its right arm at her face and...
This apparently does have something to do with me. Time to run.
Before the rocket of death could be fired, Sojiro scooped her up into his arms.
Huh?
How he mustered the strength to do so was a mystery, but he turned his back on the puppet and took off running. He was a nimble sprinter, resembling a deer leaping across obstacles. Sojiro rounded 2 more corners. He ignored whatever complaints Alka was making, and eventually stopped in the middle of the 2nd floor. He set her down.
Alright, I bought us enough time to rest a bit.
Sojour's shoulders heaved as he caught his breath. As light as she was, running while carrying someone else would make anyone winded. She looked up at him in incomprehension.
You had that much stamina all along? Then why?
It made no sense to her. If he had the stamina to pick her up and run, surely he could have stood up and escaped when he had been downed earlier.
Oh, that time, I had given up.
His words were unfiltered as ever. Though right then, fighting for their lives, he lacked some of his usual absent-mindedness.
But why?
Who knows? I've forgotten already.
Though he may have turned away because he regretted saying it out loud, his words spoke volumes. For some reason, it pained Alko to see him like that.
Also, Azaki, I'm suddenly feeling really ill. Was it that red light?
Yes. A form of magecraft. They're called gander shots, a curse that originated in Scandinavia. It has no effect on someone with magic circuits like myself, but you're defenseless against it.
I see. It doesn't work on you. Then that arm is the only thing that poses a threat.
Alko had no idea why he was relieved, but she gritted her teeth and fought down the urge to snap at him. There was no use in yelling at a time like this. Above all, she felt that it would have been petty in the extreme to voice her annoyance right now.
You're right. The extending arm is the only thing I have to worry about, so it's not that tough after all.
This time it was not a false bravado. Such an enemy would normally be a breeze for Alka Ozaki. But her shameful negligence had led to the disruption of her magic circuits, making her even less formidable than her enemy. At this point, Alko had no way of attacking. The only option left to her was to wait for it to expend all of its magical energy, but its perpetual curse mechanism made that a non-starter. This game of tag would not end until one of them was dead. She realized that she was in the same position she had cornered Sojiro in earlier. She glanced at her right arm. She could not imagine how she had gotten into such a mess with her magical energy at more than half of its capacity. This had to be karma for having enjoyed toying with Sojiro earlier.
Maybe there is a god after all.
She grumbled under her breath as she shifted her focus. She had the feel for the fire, but not the igniter. And that killing machine would chase her until the end of time if need be. What she would do next was blindingly clear. She had to get back to normal.
Azaki?
Sorry, I was thinking. Maybe that could. Okay, Shizuki, I've got it. You see that side passage over there?
Akko pointed, but he could see nothing but the walls of the corridor. For one thing, the floor had nothing but left turns, and Akko was pointing to the right.
At the center of the second floor is a stairway down to the first floor, which I destroyed earlier so you couldn't use it. But there's another path that leads to the right, like this place is taunting you by design. It's a secret shortcut that only the hardcore fans know about. If you search carefully, you can find a way to the stairs down to the first floor. Now do as I say and go on without me.
Alko turned her back to Sojiro and started walking. Walking in the opposite direction of the escape route, and down the long corridor toward the puppet in pursuit.
That thing will kill everything it sees, so I have to destroy it here and now. It's okay for two mages to fight each other, but Oh wait.
Yeah,
hang on.
this is definitely. Oh, go ahead.
I thought Sojiro was volunteering himself to well, it's not going to stop till we kill it.
Yeah, I mean, with the way
Because it
that
seemed
the
like the sort
frame
of
is.
thing he would do.
Yeah.
I agree. It's the way the framing was done.
Yeah,
'Cause
because
it
he's up
looks like-
front here.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I guess I'll start from the beginning of the line.
All right.
That thing will kill anything it sees, so I have to destroy it here and now. It's okay for two mages to fight each other, but dragging normal people into the conflict, it's strictly forbidden. I'm the target, so this is the best outcome for everyone, don't you think?
If Alco won, the puppet would be destroyed. If Alco lost, his objective would be complete and it would shut down. Either way, them going their separate ways would mean Sojiro survived. This is what Alco meant. Though she explained it as if the events were happening to two totally different people.
If you're lucky enough, you'll make it back to the gate in one piece. So, see you tomorrow then.
Even Sojiro could tell she was just trying to act tough. But she had already disappeared around the corner by the time he thought to stop her.
All right, let's switch it up a little bit. Aaron, you'll go ahead and narrate. Nancy, you'll be Sojiro, and Kanya, you'll be. Oh, cool.
Okay.
Nice.
Well then.
Excuse me. I just need a quick sip of water first.
No problem.
Okay. Mentally, Alco bemoaned the disaster she was in. The quality of this puppet was on a completely different level compared to the one from the park 2 days ago. An auto-incanting perpetual motion machine was a rarity in and of itself, but this puppet was also equipped for battle with its extending arms and gander projecting crystalline eyes. It was a first-class product that, if put onto the market, would sell for hundreds of millions of yen. Although that was only when factoring in its value as an antique. For the purposes of combat, it would have made more sense to mobilize a significantly less expensive familiar. To use such a precious commodity as a tool for murder marked this puppet's master as a completely different breed of crazy from the enemies she'd faced up until now.
Crap. Crap. Did not do this right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can sort of hear occasionally. There we go.
Here it comes.
A sound of a crackling music box filled the air. The automata, animated by its own curses, approached. The corridor measured approximately 30 feet in length. Alco lay in wait around a corner further down the hall, anticipating the puppet's appearance. This was not to buy Sojiro time to escape. Far from it. Alco had concluded that she couldn't make a break for it under the current circumstances. Even if she did try to escape, and by some miracle made it out of the House of Mirrors, that was as far as she would go. Outside, with no cover, Alco would quickly be overtaken and skewered from behind. As long as her magecraft was disabled, escape was impossible. Instead, she chose to force the enemy back. Her situation was not the most favorable, but neither was the puppet's. Though this narrow hall gave Alco no place to run, it in turn prevented the puppet from reaching full speed. That was the weak point of this machine. Automata of its era had a tendency to struggle with minute changes in speed.
Connecting.
There we go. Perfect.
She flowed energy into her shortened circuits. Her blood flowed and magical energy supply were unstable. It would be difficult to construct a formula in this state. All she could do was harden her right arm by imbuing it with as much energy as she could. Doing so turned her arm into an improvised weapon, like a hammer or bat. Assuming she could manage to get into close-range combat, this was the best she could do. All she needed now was a plan of attack. The question wasn't what weapon to use, but how to use the weapon she had. The simplest way would be to use the mirror's reflections to hide, and then rush the puppet from its blind spot, except for one major problem. It did not have a sense of sight in the first place. The puppet's view of the world around it did not stem from visual feedback, but from mapping the topography of its surroundings. In theory, it was the same as a bat's echolocation. The environment could be measured based on the emission and return of high-frequency sound waves. Those chants served as sensor pulses. As far as the puppet was concerned, the mirrors were no better than transparent panes, making even the thought of an ambush laughable.
The closer it gets, the more it's able to sense me. I'd really rather fight it at a distance, but it's shooting Gander. Probably got at least a thin shot up its sleeve too.
Gander was Scandinavian in origin. Gander was Scandinavian in origin, and considering its simplicity, highly versatile. It was most effective at impairing a target's health by pointing a finger. As a single-action magecraft, it was limited to only causing illness, but there was a secret technique said to be the greatest mastery of the Gander shot. The Fin shot. It could do more than cause simple illness. It was a deadly curse that could stop the heart. The wound on her back set her nerves on fire. An unarmed girl and a deadly automaton. It was clear that she was the one destined for death. She considered her slim chances of survival when a vision sent chills down her spine. Quietly, using everything she could to clamp down on the feeling, Alco faced her all-too-familiar illusion. She clenched her teeth to keep them from making a deafening clatter. But there, the sensation of fingers crawling up her neck. Behind her, the specter stared and laughed. This alone made Alco want to bolt. On top of it all, when Alco tried to mentally simulate the coming fight, she estimated a 2 in 10 chance of dying in the first 5 seconds.
I like how you added a pause because of a second comma.
I didn't do it consciously, but 20%. At times, her predictions were harsher than reality. If Alco fought the puppet 10 times, she would die twice. She could not stop herself from visualizing her own corpse. She imagined herself collapsing, crumpling under the puppet's curse. Her eyeballs swollen like a blowfish, blood and other fluids oozing from every bodily orifice. 1 in 5, 1 in 5, 1 in 5. A 1 in 10 chance of death was bad enough, but 1 in 5? It drove her crazy.
But
Alco forced down her heart as it tried to escape from her mouth. Taking in a deep breath, she peered at her own reflection. She thought back to that white night half a year ago. This, she decided, was nothing compared to that. 6 months ago, at the Konji estate, the Hound of White Roses, the Vandersnatch, that appeared from within the the thick fog, had killed Alco 100 times out of 10.
Valence, you're muted.
Oh yeah, you are. A dark curse shattered Alco's daydream. It was only 30 feet away. The puppet rounded the corner. Either side stood in the shadows, their forms indistinct. The puppet gave no warning. Without preamble, it swiftly fired a Gander barrage. Just as Alco planned, the curses fizzled out as they hit her mist-like barrier of magical energy. The protection would only last a few seconds, giving her just enough time to...
come on!
Its stretchable spear sprang towards Alco's face.
Bingo.
The lethal weapon grazed her cheek. All her experience analyzing puppet attack patterns gave her the wherewithal to evade the attack by a hair's breadth. It was one thing if a puppeteer were pulling the strings, but autonomous dolls had their limitations. Alco had bet everything on this killing machine following a predefined template. The puppet would use a given attack for a given range, and she could adjust her tactics to that.
Now's my chance.
Sorry, just a moment.
No problem. So this song that's played, it always brings me chills. I think it's supposed to be based off of an actual tune, if I remember correctly. Let's see.
There we go. Sorry, throat thing.
No problem.
Bangs.
Before its arm had a chance to fully retract, she charged the puppet. It was a risky gamble, but her overall chances were slim to begin with. The scales tipped in her favor. If her predictions were correct, there were 2 ways she could die. One was from a fin shot fired at that range. And the other was if the puppet's attack pattern was beyond her ability to foresee. Instantaneous mass transfer, otherwise known as mass displacement. Immediately after Alco dodged the puppet's arm, something smashed into her abdomen.
Yeah!
The head-on collision from its shoulder felt like a rocket. But where had the ability to propel itself come from? Puppets like this were not built to have the ability to jet around like that. Doing everything in her power to stay conscious in spite of the pain, Alco could just make out what had happened.
It wasn't propelled. It was pulled.
Yes, the puppet's arm had not returned to its body. It was lodged in a wall and reeled itself in from the other direction.
It can do that?
Swallowing her surprise, she hastily pulled herself back up. Her abdomen, specifically her diaphragm, had been dealt a significant blow. The attack left her disoriented. Thankfully, the puppet was surprisingly lightweight. Her bones and organs were intact, and she had sustained no life-threatening damage. She was having a hard time breathing, however. She was shaken, though she managed to keep her calm. In another 2 seconds, she'd be back on her feet. No, that was 2 seconds too long. She told herself to calm down, but she was already calm. She'd only briefly lost her bearings. She was fine. She could recover her breath and her vision later if only her body would move. Above her, Aoko could hear the warped noise of a powerful force.
Come on, legs, move. You've got to get to where?
She could once more feel the touch of death.
Oh, God. Grant us salvation. Grant us salvation. Grant us. Oh, I didn't even do the effect.
I was going to say, but I wanted to let you finish. The puppet was so close that Aoko could reach out and touch it. That also meant that it could reach out and kill Aoko.
I need to get my right arm into its blind spot.
By intuition alone, Aoko rolled over to the puppet's right flank. Its arm was still embedded within the wall. From here, it could not attack. She had made the right decision, and her dizziness faded. Aoko pulled herself back up. It was her turn.
What?
It was only an instant. Within this labyrinth of mirrors, she saw an image of herself. A blinding, brilliant light flashed. Lacerations appeared across the walls. At the last moment, Aoko managed to thicken the magical energy running through her veins into a primitive form of magecraft resistance. It just barely saved her life from what must have been the puppet's ace in the hole.
Why you?
The puppet bore a striking resemblance to Aoko. This powerful curse was not satisfied with stopping Aoko's heart, but destroying her entire being. Aoko did not even have the time to be shocked. This was her chance for a counterattack. The puppet's balance was unsteady, its right arm still embedded in the wall. Aoko prepared to give its defenseless body a strong kick, but her knees buckled and she collapsed into a heap on the floor. Sudden nausea and lightheadedness overcame Aoko. Her body temperature began to rapidly lower.
This whole time? It was spreading its curses the whole time?
She noticed too late. The puppet's curses circled the hall. The cursed chant that the puppet used as a source of power doubled as a defense mechanism, crippling those who drew near with illness. She bore the full brunt the entire time she was in close proximity to it. Although Aoko had magic circuits, she was succumbing, just as Sojiro had. Languidly, she forced her deteriorating body to jump back.
I'm not done yet.
With all the energy she could muster, she forced her way past the exhaustion caused by the curse. However, Aoko's blood pressure took a steep nosedive, not from the curse-induced anemia, but from what appeared in front of her. They stood in perfect harmony. In front of Aoko was the automata that shared her face, its left arm held like an arrow. The deadly weapon shot forward and honed in on her heart. Then, a moment before it made contact,
But you was supposed to leave.
This is why I expected he was doing the line earlier.
Yeah. Watch out!
The moment she heard that fearless voice, completely out of place in this storm of violence, Aoko's body was pulled forcefully to one side. Once again, the extending arm cut through empty air. While the puppet quickly retracted its left arm, Sojiro took the brief opportunity to take Aoko by the hand and flee at full speed.
Was it really that surprising, Nancy?
No. No, I guess not.
Sojiro ran through the corridor as fast as... Oh!
I was just going to say, since we're kind of at a different section, let's go ahead and rotate now. So, hilariously, Nancy only got one line that entire time.
I got one line! Yay!
The role of a lifetime.
The line of a lifetime.
Now, we'll go ahead and have Nancy do the narration. Aaron, you'll be Aoko. And Kanye will be Sojiro. That might be your first time voicing Sojiro, Kanye, so if you're not feeling too confident about it, just let me know.
Man, it'd be crazy, man. I don't know, man. I'll do my best.
Alright. We'll continue on with the next line for you, Nancy. Oh.
Giving Nancy 2 lines.
Man. I think this is Sojiro stealing the spotlight. Yep. Go ahead.
I was thinking, and...
Though he had saved her, she looked angry rather than grateful. This did not keep Sojiro from saying his piece.
Tomorrow's gonna be a really busy day for me, so...
Sojiro, never change.
I love him! I love him!
Oh, that's you, Nancy.
It is? I guess it is.
Yeah,
yeah,
there's
no
narrator.
Sentence. In other words, let's finish this today. A rather awkward proposal. Aoko remained silent. She was also rather angry. Not that she could not figure out what made him tick, nor because he'd returned after escaping. not even because he was spouting his typically airheaded lines. It was, she supposed, that instant. The fact that when he grabbed her hand, her mind had gone completely blank, Alco found it unforgivable. Which beckoned the response.
Are you insane?
In the heat of the moment, she blurted it out before she could stop herself.
Or maybe you've got a death wish. Don't you realize that either of us could kill you with the snap of a finger? At the very least, I don't owe you a damn thing. Saving my life doesn't change a thing between us.
Sojiro nodded, clearly unperturbed.
Don't worry, Aozaki. If tonight taught me anything, it's that you're more ruthless than that.
She found herself slightly offended.
Whose line is this?
I'm pretty sure this is Sojiro. Let's do one more. Oh,
But I think you need to get one
Yeah.
thing straight. That thing isn't just trying to kill you. I think it's trying to kill me as well.
She was having none of it. Her eyes shot daggers his way.
And before you chew me out, you need to know something. Do you remember the first 4 entrances at the end of that long corridor? Well, it's blocked. I tried my best to find a way out, but no luck. There was no chance but to turn right back.
Alco's eyes widened ever so slightly in amazement. She felt admiration rather than shock that her enemy would go to such lengths.
And besides, it was hostile to me too earlier. I could tell by how it was glaring at me. Well, it happened so fast that I didn't really get a good look at it, but it was really unsettling. You should be careful. That thing, she sure has a terrifying face.
what a
Ugh.
hilarious thing to
Considering
say.
it looks like
Yeah.
Gee, thanks.
There's nothing else to say.
You bet. I mean, I can't pretend like this isn't happening to me. Whichever of you wins, I'm a dead man either way, right?
I can't argue with that. If it's willing to go as far as to seal off the entrance, then it'd probably kill any witnesses as well. At least, that's what I'd do.
Right. I don't want her to be the one who kills me.
Wait, what?
His words were decisive. As Alco looked up at him, she could swear he was trying to encourage her. It was then that she realized. Sojiro was looking even worse than before.
Hey, are you okay?
Well, I'm better than if I'd drunk an entire bottle of soy sauce.
That's a specific thing to say.
Of all things, yeah.
He tried to make light of the situation, but his forehead was clearly drenched in sweat.
You just know this boy has tried to drink an entire bottle of soy sauce because he didn't know what it was.
I understand the pure feral urge to have soy sauce, but not a bottle of it.
Right, it's because he was close to the puppet just now.
How could he possibly be able to withstand a curse that made even Alco nauseous? She bit her lip, annoyed at herself for not noticing this earlier. Sojiro was such an airhead that she hadn't even paused to consider his plight.
Why didn't you consider trying to hide down in the basement? That would have been the safest bet, wouldn't it?
She really could not understand him at all.
You should really take your own advice sometimes, Aozaki. But hey, this is no time to be chatting. She could catch up at any moment. Like now, you hear that?
He turned to look down the corridor. The crackling sounds of a music box could be heard creeping forth from the darkness.
I was thinking about this while I was on the first floor earlier. If it kills you, I'm next. That's why we should deal with it first.
What are you getting at?
She asked a question to which she already knew the answer. She did it to put him to the test. If he wavered even a little, she would have killed him where he stood.
My proposal is if I agree to help you kill that thing, will you let me go?
I thought I made it clear that helping me wasn't going to change my mind. And besides, what do you think you're going to do to it anyway?
Oh, that's your end of the bargain, Ozaki. This is your area of expertise, right?
The commander who had the overall picture was responsible for delegating roles to their teammates. It was futile to depend on someone who was unable to grasp the situation or evaluate the enemy's strength. Sojiro was proud to share that he knew this. He spoke the truth. Aoko was the only one who knew both Sojiro and the automata. That was why he pointed out that following her orders to the best of his ability was the only thing he could do. It may have seemed as though Sojiro had surrendered his capacity for self-thought, but in accepting that he was helpless, he was in fact giving Aoko his complete trust.
Fine then. So you'll do exactly what I tell you to do?
I will. And just so you know, I'm not doing this out of a sense of obligation or anything. It's just obvious that neither of us had a chance on our own. This isn't goodwill or kindness. It's a transaction.
His eyes sparkled, as if this was bartering in its truest form.
Oh my god. This child must have learned that from Tobimaru.
God.
Child, what have you been picking up from Tobimaru? What?
I knew that boy was a bad influence on him.
I know. Oh. Though she refused to let him see it, she smiled inwardly. Sure, he had gotten the best of her just now, but there were times when defeat was not the worst outcome in the world.
Honest pay for honest work. Makes sense. And I hate to admit it, but...
She relaxed her shoulders and sighed. Her face cracked into a wicked grin, as if her fears had suddenly washed away.
Your plan is just my style.
Aoko repaid Sojiro's trust in equal measure.
What do you guys think of it so far? Let's take a small break right here. It's already been an hour.
Jeez, already?
Yeah, I'm gonna go change into comfy pants.
Yeah,
I'm
go
gonna
do
change
that.
into my voice acting pants.
Voice acting.
Then I'll stop tripping up
Aha.
over words if I change into my
I've been in
voice
my
acting pants.
Cozy blanket the entire time.
Ah, you beat me to it. The comfs, they help.
Voice acting blanket?
Yeah,
Voice acting blanket.
it helps with the reflections you see.
I mean, it's not over the top of my head. It's around my body, but it helps just the same.
I knew what you were saying, but I was still trying to go with it just in case.
Yeah.
It's like it's good for the reflections, guys. It's totes professional. Professional reasons only.
I'm a professional burrito.
Erin's just like having her face pointed directly at her lap where the blanket is at. So it absorbs all the sound. If we turn on the
a
webcam,
professional burrito.
Oh, don't do that. My hair's not ready.
it's okay.
Ah,
When she's reading, all we see is the top of her head. We won't see anything else.
Mm-hmm. The story is so good so
It's
far.
just a webcam looking at a mic pointing down.
Every now and again, you might see like Erin's eyebrow go up.
Yeah. Interesting. Anyway, I think I will also grab myself some more tea because
All right.
I'm out.
Awesome.
But yeah, this would be a good time for everyone to go ahead and take a quick break. We'll
Break time.
convene in like 5 minutes.
Okay,
Sound good?
see you soon.
Okay. I saw what you wrote about actual evil, Aaron.
I got a legendary thing. I can't complain.
I'm unfamiliar with the character. I
She's
think her
from.
character design is cute.
It is unfortunate. She's from possibly one of the worst visual novels I've ever played in my life.
Wait, is this that one?
Caffeine? Yes.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Oof.
By the way, Balance,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't notice it at first because it's very quiet,
Uh-huh.
but Alko and Sojiro have been running in the background the entire time.
I know.
Yeah.
Just thought I could give him a nice little exercise.
We'll give them a few laps around the Hall of Mirrors before we get back
Yeah.
into it.
Yep.
Yeah,
All right.
they're not running for their lives. It's fine.
Okay. Now that we're back, I have to just set everything back up. So just so that you have an idea of how I've been trying to handle this, for stream to hear the voice mod, I have to turn off the, because I have kind of technically two different inputs. I've got the what is it? Hold on, let me just switch scenes. I've got the mic itself and the voice mod input. So I have to turn off the mic input, turn on the voice mod input, and then switch it back every time I'm done. So that's why I was struggling for like 5 seconds every time that adult will talk.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll see if we hear more from it.
Well, since we're on a bit of a new section, let's rotate again. So now Kanye's back on narration. Nancy will be Aoko, and Aaron, you'll be Sojiro. Sound good?
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Whose line is it?
This should be Aoko, especially if she's mentioning how tough it is going to be for Sojiro.
Just so you know, this is gonna be pretty tough for you.
Alka warned Sojiro, moving as fast as she could without her footfalls causing a din of noise. Sojiro remained near the center of the spiral maze on the second floor.
I'll let you in on a secret. I have another trap up my sleeve. I think I might have gone overboard with this one, but when you didn't show up on time, I just couldn't help myself.
A trap? For me?
Sojiro tilted his head like a squirrel as Alco freely discussed the final ace up her sleeve.
I engraved an ignition formula into the support pillars in the basement. If I ignite the central pillar, it will start a chain reaction that will ignite the rest. I made it before that thing started jamming me, so if I infuse it with a bit of magical energy, it'll go boom.
Sojiro was a little unsettled by how unclear that last bit was.
Ozaki, could you, clarify? I want to know how much you were going to blow me up. Please be honest. Also, did I make a mistake agreeing to team up with you?
Don't be silly. It was just an insurance policy. Yeah. I just thought that if I lost sight of you at any point, I could blow the whole building and you with it.
I love the schematic they showed. It actually helps paint the picture really well.
It
Yeah.
does.
It was her policy to be thorough to a fault, after all. She laughed, embarrassed to hear herself say it out loud.
Don't you think that's overkill?
Faced with Alco's cruelty, Sojiro forgot about the situation at hand and protested from the bottom of his heart.
Stop complaining. At least now we have a way to fight back.
She shot back. Alco dashed down the corridor, mumbling things that probably would have sent Sojiro packing if he heard them. The tragedy was simple. Alco would use the escape route to the right and avoid the puppet while making her way down to the basement. Upon reaching the central pillar, she would infuse the formula she had prepared with magical energy and escape. Once ignited, it would take about a minute for the chain reaction to spread throughout the whole House of Mirrors, and another minute for the building to collapse. She would be cutting it a little close, but because she had committed the maze to memory, she was sure she could make it out in time. Alco assumed that the chain reaction caused by the pillar would clear the barrier that the puppet had placed on the entrance. And even if it was strong enough to withstand the blast, it would not be able to stay standing once the foundations buckled. Sojiro's escape was assured as long as the formula in the basement was activated. Next came the most important part. The automaton was at a disadvantage in the obstacle-laden House of Mirrors and was unable to move at full speed. If it was near the center of the second floor when the building collapsed, it would be caught up and crushed by it. So the problem was keeping the puppet on the second floor until Alco could make it down to the basement.
I'm counting on you, Shizuki. I just need you to keep it occupied for 3 minutes.
Ideally, he would be able to keep it busy until she could activate the formula. If that failed to work, him luring it down to the first floor would be the next best thing. She understood perfectly well the danger was putting Sojiro. She perfectly understood well the danger she was putting Sojiro in, but his lucky streak and running speed were nothing to scoff at.
As long as all he has to do is run, then maybe, just maybe, he can actually pull this off.
Alco made her way through the hidden passage to the maze, her hopes pinned on Sojiro. Meanwhile, well out of earshot, Sojiro was readying himself for another desperate chase. He calmed his beating heart using a method of his own making. What mattered most was that he remained calm. The plan was simple enough, and Alco's orders were Easy to understand.
Keep a distance of around 30 feet and weave through the corridors as slowly as you can 3 or 4 times. Count the mirrors as you move to locate the hidden passages. Should we be having Aoko recite this as a memory, or is this Sojiro reciting it to himself?
I was imagining Aoko, but you've gotten halfway there. We can continue on.
Sorry.
It's all good.
From here, they're on the 6th, 3rd, 7th, and 2nd mirrors counterclockwise. Use those, you should be relatively safe.
It was essentially a looping marathon. As long as Sojiro kept just enough distance from the puppet's extended arm to allow her to track him, she could continue to chase him indefinitely.
So Dead by Daylight. Got it.
Too true.
Oh my god.
Simple though the task was, Sojiro was putting his life on the line as bait. And then there was the final order to run as fast as he could to the exit when the building began to sway.
So actually Dead by Daylight. Aoko is turning on the generator to activate the exit gates.
I don't know that game.
This is just like Dead by Daylight.
Oh, here it comes.
I don't know what you're talking about.
This is more than just a little tough.
He nervously stuck his head out from around the corner. He could hear the sound of the music box from the other side of the corridor. First he had to make eye contact with it, and then head to the shortcut on the right and begin their game of tag. Damn. My bad.
Kanye! Calm yourself!
My bad, chat. He spotted it and braced himself. Closer. Closer. Fearing that her arm could fly at him at any moment, he went over Aoko's instructions in his head.
Wait.
However, he could not quite remember which pane led to the first hidden passage.
The end. Roll credits. Switch on the holy night.
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh no.
Turns out Sojiro does die after all. Bye.
And now on to the next male lead.
There are none.
Well, I guess it's just the female
The-
lead.
Third? The sixth? The ninth?
9th male lead?
No.
It's Drover. No. He was sure that he was mistaken.
Oh.
He was confident he had it memorized moments ago, but his nerves had gotten the best of him, and his head was now spinning.
Oh god.
The little like spinny leaf kind of looked like a
Like a sweat?
snot bubble for a sec there.
Oh. It's done that multiple times where it's like just positioned enough where it's either like a good like sweat gland thing moment
Uh-huh.
or it's like a snot bubble or a drool bubble.
Yeah.
Then, Sojiro realized that the sound of his pursuer was beginning to grow distant. And then, with incredible speed,
What's it doing now?
the unusual silhouette of the puppet astonished him. Before it had taken the form of a beautiful girl, but now it made it a bizarre transformation, and returned to the first floor to pursue her primary target.
Oh. This isn't the plan.
Uh-oh.
Sojiro was no longer sure what to do. Before he'd even had the time to mourn his failure, the puppet had vanished out of sight.
I'll help, so let me go.
Or so he had said, but now he could not follow through.
So what am I supposed to do now?
Alone, he tilted his head in frustration. He spoke into the darkness as if Alka would be there to answer him.
Since that was a short section, we'll continue on with this setup.
Meanwhile, downstairs, as soon as she had arrived on this first floor, Alko understood what had transpired above her. She did not even have to strain her ears to hear the puppet. Even during its heyday, this attraction had never made sounds like the one she had heard coming toward her now. It was a sound of despair, as if the horde of monstrous hedgehogs were scraping on their way past the mirrors in her direction.
That is not a
What
description.
a vivid description.
Yeah.
Okay, bruh.
That's not. That
Whatever
isn't
you say,
just-
Nasu.
Yeah, sure.
Whatever you say, Nasu.
I mean, if I saw a horde of Sanics, I would be joyful and in glee, but that's just me.
No.
Okay.
The thousand little blue devils moving at the speed of light. Yeah, I'm good. Or speed of
Mhm.
sound.
That ditz! 3 minutes? He couldn't even last 10 seconds!
That's what she said.
Crazy.
Ouch, ouch!
We were all thinking it.
Oh,
Our mind went there.
I wasn't thinking it until you said so!
Crazy.
Most of us were thinking it.
Okay.
Rather than buying her time, Soju had instead stolen hers. He had one job, to run away. That was all. She cursed him under her breath.
Multiple footsteps. So it switched from bipedal to multi-leg form?
The echoes made it sound like dozens of feet were approaching. Ako's mind conjured an image of a giant six-legged spider tearing its way down the corridor.
Oh god.
It was a little wonder that it was so much faster than before. Its perception of the surroundings through echolocation was of particular use in the dark. Compared to sight-dependent humans, this automaton was far better equipped to navigate its way through the labyrinth of mirrors. If it could not keep pace earlier, that had been because its bipedal mode made it less maneuverable. Now, the stability provided by multiple legs, gave it a speed that far exceeded that of any human.
What now? What now?
Her thoughts spun out as she tried to come up with a plan B. All she knew for sure was that this was a pivotal moment. To you standing still, she had seconds left at most. Even in her current state, she knew she could easily neutralize the bounded field blocking the entrance without casting a spell. All she had to do was feed a little of her own energy into it. Alka could sprint with all her might for a little more than 3 minutes. Puppet had far more stamina than she did. She could only come up with 3 options. First was to escape through the exit in front of her. Second was to hide somewhere on the more complicated first floor. And the third was to run to the basement and be stuck like a rat in the trap.
Well, that's obvious enough.
She made a decision with zero hesitation. Moving her stiff legs again with determined strength. The oncoming storm was almost upon her. Her resolve firm, she turned and ran, descending into the darkness.
I
Okay.
imagine running around in those boots and being like, no.
Yeah. But that's just like almost every anime, I swear. Like, they're
Yeah.
always running in high heels in some way. I mean, Genshin Impact.
True.
Genshin Impact.
I just assume in those universes, high heels are more stable than they are in our universe.
Would be nice. No one would. Well, it would still be a pain in the ass, so. Even added stability wouldn't alleviate the pains of wearing heels.
Yeah.
Anyway, now that we're sort of now on a different section, let's rotate again. Aaron, if I could have you narrate, Kanye, be Alco, and Nancy, let's hope you get more Sojiro lines.
Okay. Let's hope.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Okay, go ahead.
No matter what, A finale should be glorious. This would be the Mirror Castle's final scene. 2 humans and a puppet. A young sorceress ran toward the subterranean heart of the castle, while an autonomous antique chased its prey into the depths of a demonic dungeon. A minute later, a faint blue charge would ripple through the castle. This was the main pillar in the deepest depths of the basement. Though not critical to the castle's structure, the pillar was a visible symbol of it. The girl concentrated her magical energy into a fist and thrust it at the pillar. This was a blow that would bring down the castle. She imagined the destruction as she threw the punch, and that scene blossomed into reality seconds later. It was simple ignition magecraft, meant to release the condensed magical energy engraved into the 4 pillars at the corners of the structure. Using electricity as a switch meant virtually instantaneous activation.
Rosalie, what?
It happened swiftly and elegantly. A hammer of destruction descended upon the Castle of Dreams that had stubbornly resisted its fate for 2 years. It was almost a joyous sound. And so, the lifeless and abandoned Castle of Mirrors set the stage for its final and most spectacular performance. Alko's magical energy became an electrical charge that activated the Magecraft formula engraved into the pillar. The chain reaction would lead to the castle's destruction.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm. You served your purpose. But it must have been rough. Looks like you're gonna collapse any time now.
The plaza in the center of the basement. Alko tried to steady her breathing while rotating her magic crest at full speed. She wreathed her arms in blue light, fully aware that she could no longer activate another formula. Her labored breathing refused to settle. She stood at the center of the basement. Without being spotted even once, she had managed to make it all the way to the central pillar. It was a 100-meter dash in 13 seconds flat. Undoubtedly a new personal best. She spurred on her weakened heart, knowing full well the fate that awaited her.
Can't help but follow me. Once down here, there'll be no escape. I should have expected that. It was too much to expect that I could keep up the chase forever.
Hindsight was 20/20. The castle was only a minute away from collapsing completely. If they stayed here, they would both be crushed by the rubble. The puppet certainly did not care. With no life of its own, its sole concern was the elimination of its target, Alko Aozaki. Indeed. The enemy had been willing to die from the start. She resented her own lack of resolve. It wasn't like her to tuck tail and run from an opponent that didn't fear death.
It's always been on a suicide mission, huh? Doesn't have enough juice to power the 6-legged form and the thin shots. The cursors aren't recharging it fast enough.
Such a perpetual motion device was only as good as its ability to regulate its energy consumption. Using so many functions at once meant it was burning through fuel quickly and losing the ability to process the curses that powered it. It was using up all of the functions it had been given to achieve its aim. This was the pride of a tool, if such things could have ego. Those endowed with sentience could never hope to understand. A beast born to do nothing but run would burn any human who faced its resolve.
It's a waste when you think about it. I thought my sister was the only one capable of something this reckless, but I guess I was wrong.
But Aoko did not intend a sacrifice play here. She respected her adversary now, and she was done regretting her choices. There was no time to waste.
And this is it. This ends now.
Aoko had every intention of paying it back double for what it had done to her. The energy Aoko had accumulated exploded out of her right leg. She aimed for a single thing, a head-on attack. The enemy responded with a lethal curse that reached for her heart like a set of talons. Humming with power, it meant to rend Aoko's heart and burn itself out in the process. As soon as she saw it, Aoko kicked the floor as hard as she could. Her long hair swirled through the air as she flipped aside. This lateral move almost sent her tumbling to the ground, but a quick swing of her arm allowed her to regain her balance. A shot grazed her arm, the curse scorching her left shoulder. She did not flinch. Aoko knew she could hold on as long as she continued to avoid a direct fin shot.
Sep!
Off balance and in pain, it took her a half second to recover. The moment she raised her head, she deflected the attack with a fistful of magical energy.
Here it goes.
If the puppet had a will of its own, its eyes would have popped right out of its sockets. It would have been floored. Shocked at the strong will that allowed this girl to perform a series of moves like this.
Crack!
Aoko's response was instantaneous. While her power was not sufficient to completely redirect the arm's trajectory, it was just enough to deflect it harmlessly past her hair.
Oh god, here we go.
The chant became a curse that robbed Aoko of her vitality. Did it still have something left in the tank, or was it actually indignant? Whatever the reason, Aoko was easily able to resist its weakened defensive maneuver.
Glider!
And her right leg, pulsing with magical energy, shot up into the puppet's chest from below.
Dude, this is just a melty blood.
Yeah.
It was much lighter than Aoko anticipated. Or rather, she felt little resistance. An automaton's weight was determined by its internals, the size of its power source. Ironically, it was the superiority of its music box engine that would prove to be its downfall.
Yeah, here we go again.
stuttering curse. Having taken the full brunt of Alko's kick, the puppet bounced from ceiling to floor, collapsing in a heap. Its internal construction had been warped by the impact, leaving the drum of the music box that powered the puppet warped as well.
Take your design flaws up with your maker. A single dynamo would have been all you needed to. Wait, what the? Oh, wait, hold on. Wait, what the?
Part of the ceiling came crashing down in front of Alko, snapping her back to her senses.
Did I really just take her out?
She was so stunned by her own victory that she forgot the House of Mirrors had already begun to collapse.
I gotta get out of here!
Couldn't even do that one with a straight face.
There was no time to relish in her victory or pity her opponent. Not unless she wanted to meet the same fate. As the situation stood, she found it hard to imagine getting out alive.
Need to move on, Alko.
She clapped herself on the cheeks to motivate herself anew. This was her bounty for finishing their battle in a matter of seconds. Her breath ragged with excitement, Alko ran for the exit. Oh no, but what about Homeboy?
He'll be fine.
Yeah, he's got it.
The collapse was intensifying by the second. Having lost its support pillars, the castle was buckling under its own weight.
Out of my way!
Escaping from the basement was proving to be no easy task. While she was taking the shortest route possible through the maze, she was nearly crushed by a falling piece of the ceiling along the way. This was the third, she had to deal with fallen rubble along the way. She destroyed the debris on the stairs with magic bullets as she ran. The automaton's jamming had long since worn off. The earlier attack had damaged the vast majority of its functions. Every time I see that thing, I keep expecting a quick time event or something, even though I know it's not a interactive game. Alko's breathing was heavy as she ran. Desperation sparked her brain into overdrive. The ceiling seemed to be collapsing in slow motion. Life seemed to flash before her very eyes. Each second stretched into 5. Her frayed nerves made it hard to tell the time. Uh-oh. There was debris riddled through the stairwell, forcing her to crawl up it. She emerged from the destroyed basement into the collapsing first floor. That the plaza was still traversable at all was a miracle in itself. Unfortunately for her, the crucial path to the exit was still intact.
I made it.
The corridor to the entrance was still intact. The basement maze only extended as far as the plaza, so the entrance corridor wouldn't collapse. Only the ceiling would cave in, leaving the scaffolding surround intact. She got herself this far by telling herself repeatedly that fate would decide whether or not she reached the plaza. Her gamble paid off. It was her lucky day. All she had to do was muster the last of her strength and keep moving forward until... She hesitated for a fraction of a second. Was it naivete? A sense of responsibility? She pushed aside the image that popped into her head and continued running down the corridor.
I have the luxury of coordinating the timing with each other this off. It's not the greatest plan in the world, but we both need to do our parts. We should exit as quickly as possible.
That was 5 minutes ago. At the time, Sojiro had nodded with trepidation. And Alko had not bothered to ask herself why.
you spacing out for? Just focus on running.
This corridor was giving out too. If she were to look back, she would... If she were to look back, she was sure she would see the building collapsing in on her. She was also sure she had no time to waste doing so. Her luck was fading as fast as the building's structural integrity. It was a small miracle that she had escaped serious injury up to this point, and she could not afford even the slightest slip-up. An ankle sprain, loss of balance, or even a sneeze would be fatal. A simple pat on the back was enough to end it. So naturally...
Oh.
There it was, clear as day. From the detritus of the stairway, death had arisen to take her down with it. A corpse that had crawled its way up from the depths of hell itself. It was still operational. And it was still armed with curses. It had crawled after her, watching as Alko desperately tried to save herself. The puppet's arm shot forward. While Alko did not turn to meet it, she could see its reflection in the mirrors. Oh, you thought you were safe, Balance. Extend, extend, extend. This time she could not dodge it. There was absolutely nothing she could do. The puppet with her face sang.
Oh. Oh, here we go. Ah!
What?
For a moment, she could not believe her eyes. It was the last thing she'd expected to see.
Don't know when to give up, do you?
I think just... Wait, yeah, no.
A fierce expression adorned the face of the boy who'd been waiting in the plaza as he smashed the puppet's outstretched arm. Anger really did not suit him at all.
Yeah, it was Sojiro. You got robbed, Nancy, I'm sorry.
Should
Okay.
we could look at the history and let Nancy read it. Maybe.
It's fine.
Alright, let's just continue.
It's fine. Let's keep going.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
His choice of weapon was a fire extinguisher. He must have searched the maze for something to use as a weapon. No, never mind that. It was too crazy to contemplate, but had he stayed behind for her?
Yes. Yes, he did.
Ooh.
Shizuki!
Alko stopped the feet she had sworn would never stop moving and extended a hand out to him.
That's enough. Leave it. We have to go.
Sojiro tossed the fire extinguisher aside and took off running. Pieces of the ceiling continued to collapse like dominoes. They kept moving with dust and dirt following in their wake. Their shadows raced through the collapsing corridor with all their strength. The castle was in the throes of death. With a massive crash and a cloud of dust, the final chapter of the fairy tale that had been Kitsyland came to an abrupt end.
So, how are you guys feeling about that so far?
I really want to see a theme park that's been abandoned now, because this is just going to remind me of this.
And then there will be a mannequin and it'll scare the hell out of you.
Yep. Yep, it will. Surely it will.
Yeah, if you go to like a House of Mirrors or like a haunted house attraction, and there
Mhm.
happens to
God.
be something like that.
Yep. It'll happen.
That would be the most evilest thing to do, even if people never read or watched this. Just seeing a mannequin in a hall of mirrors would just
Yeah.
be scary in of itself.
Yep. Would freak me the
I
hell
shit
out.
myself.
All right, I think we're almost close to the end of the chapter. Let's rotate once more. Nancy, if I could have you narrate, Aaron be Aoko, and Kanye be Sojiro again.
Okay.
Whew.
Xbox.
This duel to the death was over. For a moment, amidst their swirling emotions, any past enmity was forgotten. The two collapsed on the lawn and basked in strange solidarity. The ringing in their ears subsided before long. A tremor of such magnitude seemed impossible in an amusement park like this. As the sounds of destruction echoed across the park, Aoko addressed the individual at her side.
Hey, you alive?
Yeah.
The narrator cackled.
While the click of her tongue was adorable, the meaning behind it was anything but.
Saki? What happened to that thing?
What do you think? It was crushed to bits.
Mm.
Sojiro sighed, not wholly relieved by her frank response. His reason?
Never mind that thing. Oh,
Oh.
sorry, I keep jumping on other people's lines.
I think this.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah, I think this is.
Yeah, Osaka.
Aoko, yeah.
Never mind that thing. You should be worrying about yourself.
He wasn't out of the woods yet, after all.
Saki, I'm guessing you're a bit of a bully as a kid.
Maybe. But I don't get a kick out of seeing people suffer. Never mind that. Do you know the situation you're in right now?
She sat up and smiled. Sojiro hung his head in shame, wondering why her kind tone and expression were so chilling.
Please accept my sincerest apologies.
Oh no, don't you even start. You know what our agreement was, and a deal's a deal. If you held
Thank
up
you.
at your end of the bargain, I'd let you go.
Exactly, and that's why I'm apologizing.
Sojiro made a show of avoiding her eyes. Like a pouting child. Aoko was taken aback by this sulky display. Perhaps he was angry at himself rather than her. He was not mad because she would not let him go. He was mad that he had not done his part.
What a sweetheart.
I
That
know.
would be
Darn marshmallow.
why. Marshmallow.
Aoko sighed for what seemed like the millionth time that day. She could not figure out what surprised her more, his unconditional kindness or her naive approval of it.
So, are you ready?
Of course not. But a promise is a promise. In the end, I failed to do my part.
It was certainly the case that he failed to do any of the things she had expected of him. But just then, she glanced back at the collapsed house of mirrors. What had he done after failing so spectacularly? He had searched for the extinguisher so he could use it as a weapon, and waited patiently in the plaza as the maze collapsed all around him, just because he thought it was wrong to leave her behind. It was a foolish choice, and the exact opposite of her choice to run towards the exit without hesitation.
I suppose I'll take it.
She was satisfied, even as she was shocked at how naive she was being. It was true that he had saved her. She smiled inwardly, admiring, if only for a moment, the bravery he continued to show in the face of such extreme circumstances.
You may have blown your chance, but you did make up for it after the fact. I'll keep my promise.
With a nod, she pulled herself to her feet. How are you still moving after all this?
I've been thinking that this whole time, like with how much
Those are
damage
some crazy
she's
kids,
taken,
man.
Adrenaline is one hell of a drug.
and it's gonna wear off pretty soon, I bet.
Mhm.
But you'll pay back this favor someday.
Hmm?
The girl tried to keep a straight face as she offered a hand to the boy still lying on the ground.
You managed to help me in the end. So, because of that, I'll let you off the hook. For tonight.
She bashfully averted her gaze. Bashfully?
It's not like I like you, Shizuki.
Or anything, baka.
Oh, no, stop.
Though her profile appeared different than it had in the past, it was clearly still the face of the vibrant girl he met the day he first arrived in town.
What are you staring at?
As if she had felt his eyes on her, she shot him a frowning glare.
Oh, sorry. It's just, as crazy it is to say out loud, you really are a fair person, Ozaki.
He took her outstretched hand. Feeling his weight as she pulled him up, she could not help but think that he was about the last person she wanted to hear that from.
By the way, you said you'd let me off the hook for tonight. What about tomorrow?
Well, we'll just have to see.
She shrugged her shoulders as if she was not sure herself. The response was so unlike her that it made Sojiro smile. Was it the solidarity of having escaped death together, or their fleeting camaraderie that made him do so? It might have been for this night only, but the air between them was kind and gentle. A lot had transpired, but the midwinter nightmare had come to an end. The pair had overcome many trials and tribulations, and could now leave the mirror realm in their wake. But before that,
I'll take care
How
of this.
selfish. Oh, go ahead.
How selfish of you. And who, may I ask, said you could decide that, Aoko?
oh no. It was the voice of a beautiful songbird and a merciless machine all rolled into one.
Alice.
Her voice quivered as she spoke the name.
The lady in black made her presence known. The night was not yet over. Her name was Alice Kuonji. She was a witch whose name struck fear into the heart of Aoko, an avatar of the night who would allow no witnesses.
Weren't expecting that, now were you?
I was expecting that.
Well, that's
Save.
yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, she's gonna have to explain to
Save!
Alice at some point, or regardless,
Yeah, I
why
figured.
she let Sojiro go.
I was like, this would be too easy if they could be like, okay, we're okay for now,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, okay. It's not like I like you or anything.
Oh,
Bam,
God.
Alice.
Yep. But yeah, that's the end of the first chapter of Night of the Witches. There's a part 2.
Jesus.
I know, it was already a long
Oh, it's a long
chapter.
night.
This is gonna be a long night.
It's
Long night, everybody.
for sure. And it's kind of crazy to think that it feels like ages ago since we had the really lighthearted, like slice of
School.
life kind of
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah.
So, thoughts so far, everyone?
I think we said
speak.
earlier that it's surprising that these kids are still standing.
Yeah.
It's still true.
Yeah. Still true.
They
Yeah.
have anime protagonist stamina. It's fine.
They do.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And he's been hit by how many curses now, and he's still standing?
He's got that mountain man stamina.
But he looked like he was really suffering like half an hour ago.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if this is the guy who's been living in the mountains, surely he's dealt with sickness all the time. Didn't have any medicine to deal with it, so he just had to kind of just stick with it, you know?
Yeah, just walk it off.
Literally had to.
Walk
Or
it
he'd
off.
die.
It's fine. Oh my gosh.
But Aoko having
But yeah, that was a really good set piece, like overall, that whole House of Mirrors kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And well done with getting the voice mod working. That was great.
Yeah, I'm sorry you had to struggle so much for it, but you did good.
Thank you. I think it's always worth it for these things.
It reminded me kind of, if anybody's listened to like the Adventure Zone, it reminded me a lot of like the Crystal Kingdom
True.
section
Hmm.
that uses a similar type of, well, they used a Vocaloid for it, but still, it had a similar vibe.
I'm not familiar with that, but I'll take your word for that one. How's chat doing? Y'all doing alright? Enjoy the narration of our wonderful actors. 2 of which is going to be in the upcoming Coffee Talk mod.
Yeah.
Voiceover mod, rather.
Oh,
And Kanye was the fabulous Gillian in the Valhalla
Yes.
voiceover mod.
Hi.
I miss Gillian.
Oh my god. I just went back and rewatched parts of the first episode recently because I was linking it to somebody,
Mhm.
and
Uh-huh.
just Kanye's performance, like reacting to all the dog stuff in the bathroom, was just so good.
Yeah. I recently went and watched our blooper reel again because I was like scrolling through some of the bloopers that Kolzan had taken out and posted, and then Balance had taken them and stuck them into an actual reel.
Mhm.
And watching that just made me giggle.
Just had
So
to.
good. It was so good. It was a really good streak of bloopers. I think one of my favorites. There was like a Gil line where I think we had to have Gil like do a couple of things in a different way, and like stringing them together was hilarious.
I feel like that's a lot of Gillian stuff anyway.
Mhm.
Just, he really was a great comic relief.
He was, but they still showed him like having a deeper side, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a good balance between the two, you know?
I see what you did there.
Ha 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 ha. Not even intentional.
Awful.
But
But
yes.
yeah.
It was a
I've
great
saved it.
balancing act in our studio.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
good
Of
grief.
entertainment.
Oops. No. Title. There we go.
And
But
it automatically saves at the end of chapters, I assume.
yeah,
I
it does.
hope.
But I also saved. I just
Okay.
didn't want to proceed by accident.
Mhm.
But yeah, that marks the end of our stream for today. If you guys are all free next week again on Thursday, we will continue. Ow! But who did that? That was it. We'll continue this next week as well with the second chapter. Except we'll get to see how frightening Alice can be.